Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Xiefeng, translated by Qinyu, edited by Peter. Whether existence determines consciousness or consciousness determines existence is a type of watershed between materialism and idealism. Human beings have not yet had a correct understanding of this issue until now. Jumping to a conclusion rashly will definitely cause confusion in people's minds. If we divide the population into 5 categories: ignorant people, laities, mortals, sages, and saints, immortals, and then according to the attitudes of people of each level towards the material world, we can clearly understand the reason why some people believe that existence determines consciousness, while others are convinced that consciousness determines existence. Ignorant people live by instinct. Although they belong to the family of human beings, they are not much different from animals. They don't know what creation and thinking are. As long as things are necessary for their survival, they will just grab them. If they are put on a deserted island, they will only die. So, for ignorant people, existence determines everything. Without existence, there is nothing. Laities are people who live by their desires. The central content of their lives is money, status, power, reputation, and beauty. They live for these desires all their lives. Once they don't get the above, they will suffer terribly. For laities, existence determines their consciousness, and their daily activities have a clear purpose and goal, which is how to obtain existence. Without the seduction of factors such as money, laities cannot live a single day. Mortals live by affection. The core content of their lives is family affection, relatives and friends, colleagues and classmates, group and clan, country and nation. With these, they can live a flavorful life. Without these, they will feel alone, bored, empty, and lonely. Therefore, for mortals, it is still existence that determines consciousness, and without existence, their consciousness will collapse. Sages are people who live by reason. They are people who often ask why, people who want to understand the essence behind superficial phenomena, existence. Existence is the basis of sages' consciousness. Without this basis, they cannot think deeply. People such as scientists in various fields, philosophers, and thinkers all belong to the category of sages. Although existence is the basis of the consciousness of sages, they also pay more attention to the reaction of consciousness to existence. Therefore, for sages, existence and consciousness are equally important. Because they devote more time and energy to the field of consciousness than on the basis of existence, sages tend to become the best among human beings. Saints, immortals, are people who rely on spirituality. What is perceived through sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch is not important to them. What is important is what is realized through their spiritual sense. Spiritual perception is purely an activity of consciousness. So, for immortals, it is consciousness that determines existence. To sum it up, for ignorant people, laities, and mortals, existence determines consciousness. If you tell them, consciousness determines existence, it is like casting pearls before swine. They might even give you a back kick. For sages, existence is equivalent to consciousness. There is no question of who decides what. For immortals, consciousness determines existence. If we tell immortals that existence determines consciousness, they can only think that we are ignorant. Then, does existence determine consciousness, or does consciousness determine existence? First, let's take a look at all the things created by human beings. Like cars, how did cars appear on Earth? There are no cars on the Earth, so how could cars appear out of thin air? What? It turns out that people first imagined it in their consciousness, and then created it according to the imagination in their consciousness. How did the first house appear on the Earth? What? It is also people who first imagined a house structure, and then recreated it according to the imagined structure. How did fashion become popular? What? It turns out that fashion designers first realized it in their brains, and then made it to guide the trend. It can be deduced from this that all things created by human beings are firstly imagined in human consciousness, and then created according to their imaginations. If people had no imagination, that is, no thinking and no consciousness, then all the artificial objects that we use today would not have appeared. This clearly proves that consciousness determines existence. Without human consciousness, how can there be so many artificial things on the Earth? Let's look at the dwelling places of human beings and the natural environment. When we enter someone's home, someone who loves to be clean and tidy, we see that the tables, chairs, and beds are arranged in an orderly manner. Whether it is the pictures on the wall or the flowers cultivated on the windowsill, they all give people the feeling of being natural, harmonious, beautiful, and suitable. Why is this happening? Oh, it turns out that the owner of this house has a clear spatial layout in her consciousness. The orderly existence of everything in her house was first imagined in her consciousness. If her consciousness is chaotic, she may put the coffee table on the table, and she can't think of planting a few pots of flowers and placing them on the windowsill. Over the past 10 years, I have observed the residences of many people in Zimbabwe. Generally, the living environment of Caucasians is clean, tidy, and orderly. Their lawns are always neatly mowed. Their flowers are always beautiful, and plants are always verdant and green. Even their washrooms, toilets, are full of flowers, and you will never spot oil stains in their kitchens. Looking at the environment of our Chinese people, weeds are overgrown in the courtyard. Dog excrement is everywhere. The washroom smells bad. Cockroaches are rampant in the kitchen, and the stove is greasy. Why is there such a big difference? Aren't they all human? It turns out that the difference lies not in existence, but in consciousness. Chinese and Caucasians have different consciousness of the environment. The quality of the living environment depends on the consciousness of the people in this environment. If there is a good consciousness, there will be a good environment. Without a good consciousness, of course, it is impossible to have a good environment for existence. My child once used his vacation to drive to Washington and New York by himself. I asked him on the phone, "What is your biggest impression after seeing New York?" Unexpectedly, he replied, "New York's Chinatown is too dirty and messy. It does not match the civilization and prosperity of New York." Can it be that existence determines consciousness? If a Chinese has lived in China from beginning to end, it can be barely said that the existence of the dirty, disorderly, and bad surrounding environment leads to the dirty, disorderly, and bad living environment of his own. But after we came to a beautiful country, where the existence is beautiful, why does the environment change when we live there? Isn't it that our consciousness determines our existence? Suppose we Chinese exchange with Japanese and Germans. We all live in Japan and Germany and let Japanese and Germans live in China. Within 50 years, China will become the most beautiful and graceful country in the world, while Japan and Germany will become too dirty, disorderly, and bad countries. Consciousness determines existence, and what kind of consciousness is there, there will be that kind of existence. If everyone is belligerent, the world will be in a constant state war. If everyone loves peace, how could there be wars?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Look at Islamic mosques, Christian churches, and Buddhist temples. Their architectural styles and shapes are quite different. Why? Because the consciousness of designers and builders is different from each other.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
When comparing the urban layouts of Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, and Beijing, the capital of China, Harare's commercial, industrial, and residential areas are clearly separated, with a distance of at least 1 kilometer from each other, while Beijing's commercial, residential, and industrial areas are almost intertwined. The reason for the formation of this pattern of existence is that the British and the Chinese have different consciousness of people, and it is the different consciousness that determines the different urban layouts. Consciousness determines existence. When comparing the wearing and the style of dress of women during the Chinese Cultural Revolution and the wearing and style of dress of people at this present stage, from the perspective of time and space, they are definitely two different worlds. During the Cultural Revolution, women did not bother to perm, dye their hair, draw their eyebrows, and put on lipstick. Even their clothes were mostly yellow, gray, and blue. Skirts and high-heeled shoes were absolutely not allowed. About their breasts, they would find ways to press them tightly to their chest. If you budged a little, people would look at you differently, and you would be regarded as a hot, foxy spirit descending on the world, a symbol of restlessness and flirting. Look at today's women, one by one. They are more enchanting and beautiful, with all kinds of postures, styles, curvaceous beauty, sexual beauty, and temperamental beauty that is fully displayed. living out their individuality, freedom, and elegance, as if all the fairies in heaven have descended to the world. The reason why different eras have different ways of dressing is that people in different eras have different consciousness, and it is the consciousness of different eras that determines the existence of those different eras.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why is the population of the United States growing more slowly than that of China and India? Why do couples with higher IQs, who are richer, and with higher education levels have fewer children, while poorer, less educated couples have more children? Why can a man have several wives in some countries and regions, while most countries and regions can only be monogamous? Why could a couple in our previous generation have many children, but we can only have one child at this stage of China? Aren't all these differences determined by our human consciousness? Consciousness determines existence. Why are most of the Nobel Prize winners Americans? Why is there not a single Nobel Prize winner from mainland China? Are Americans so smart and Chinese so stupid? The main reason is that Americans and Chinese have different consciousness. If you want to eat hamburgers, you will definitely not make noodles. If you want to eat chicken, you definitely won't put pork into the pot. The reason is so simple. Do we still doubt that consciousness determines existence?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why do the political systems of various countries in the world differ from each other? Why does the President of the United States only serve 2 terms at most, while the presidents of some countries can serve many terms? Isn't it their existence determined by the national consciousness of various countries? How was the Earth born? How did the plants and animals on Earth appear? Isn't this determined by the consciousness of the greatest creator? Not long ago, I read a review article. Its general meaning is to criticize the only children in China at this stage for being ambitious, unrealistic, greedy for enjoyment, and for their wishful thinking. The article also mentioned a college student who had not yet graduated describing his long-term plan. I want to go to the United States and build a villa in a small city with beautiful mountains and rivers. I want to have a green lawn, a private swimming pool, and a Mercedes-Benz. The reviewer had a good-natured ridicule on this wishful thinking and hoped that such college students can face reality, be down to earth, and not be too ambitious. In my opinion, this commenter is an outstanding representative of the idea that existence determines consciousness. His thinking is still in the narrow field of material existence. He only sees today, values reality, and he cannot imagine that the future of mankind is determined by the consciousness of mankind, that the future of each individual is determined by the consciousness of the individual. This kind of person is a frog at the bottom of a well, and the blue sky he sees is just as big as a sieve. Relying on this kind of person to guide young people is not only misleading young people, but also cruelly oppressing people's spirituality and ruining their bright future. Such people, on the surface, are kind, but in essence, are evil. If I were to comment on this college student, I would say, "Son, you're absolutely right. Visualize it. Your wish will come true." The better and clearer the picture you have of your future in your mind, the more likely you are to realize it. The place you can see is where you are going. The situation you can realize in your brain is where you can go, because your behavior is controlled by your consciousness. If you want to go to the east, your feet can't move toward the west. The existence of reality is constantly changing with the consciousness of human beings. If we limit our consciousness to the existence of reality, we will always be slaves to the existence of reality, and we will never be able to create a better tomorrow. Son, the universe is boundless. There are 36-dimensional spaces, so spread the wings of your imagination and fly freely. A bright future belongs to the generation that can imagine this. Whether existence determines consciousness or consciousness determines existence, it is by no means a game of words or concepts, and it is by no means a question of whether to eat steamed buns or noodles. Whoever comes first directly determines the future of everyone. What kind of consciousness one has, he will have that kind of life. What kind of consciousness determines what kind of existence he will have. Existence determines consciousness is the thinking of animals and plants that rely on instinct to survive. Consciousness determines existence is the thinking of sages and saints, and the thinking of gods and Buddhas. If existence determines consciousness, we have only one Earth. If consciousness determines existence, we will have 36-dimensional spaces. If existence determines consciousness, We can only survive in the contradictions and pains of reality forever. If consciousness determines existence, we can transcend the existence of reality and focus on future development and changes. If existence determines consciousness, we can only passively be constrained by the environment. If consciousness determines existence, we can actively open up a sunshine avenue in the existence of reality. If existence determines consciousness, we cannot see the brilliance of the greatest creator, and we can only live to die. If consciousness determines existence, we can decipher the mysteries of the time and space of the universe, extend this limited life to the infinite wonderful time and space, and then we can die to be reborn. Existence determines consciousness is conventional thinking. Consciousness determines existence is unconventional thinking, and a bright future belongs to people with unconventional thinking.
成功是一个陷阱。
Success is a trap. Xiefeng, March 24th, 2021. Translation edited by Qinyo. I come from the thousand-year world, where there are no successes or failures, only enjoyers of life from beginning to end. In the thousand-year world, there are no such words or concepts as success and failure. In heaven, there is never talk of success. Everything unfolds and retracts naturally. In the plant and animal worlds, there is no talk of success. Only in the human realm is there talk of success and failure. Most of those who mess up their lives are the ones who pursue success. If you were to statistically analyze and summarize, most of those in prison are the ones who pursue success. The sea of suffering is boundless. Take a look at those in the sea of suffering. They are all lives seeking success. So, I draw a conclusion. Success is a trap. Who invented this trap? The answer is the devil. Is my conclusion correct? Everyone carefully observes human society. Who are the ones that drive people to strive for success? How do those who aspire to success end up? Are most of those who mess up their lives the ones who want success? What is success? Contending for the space of a snail's antler, or contend for a flash of light. Is that success? Did Qin Shi Huang succeed? Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk, all were places of singing and dancing in those days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in mist, all belong to the battlefields of the old times. Who succeeded? You've earned a lot of money, but you've never had time to appreciate the moonlight. Have you succeeded? Do you call that success? I cannot see a single successful person. I only see lives crushed by success, their faces distorted and souls shattered.
反常思维漫谈。
Random talk about unconventional thinking. Zuanfeng. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. Where do people come from, and where do they go to? What is the essence of life? What is the purpose of living? What is the goal of life? What is the value and the meaning of life? Is life accidental? Is death inevitable? Is there a causal relationship between life and death? Do all the phenomena in nature happen accidentally, or are they predestined? Why did Einstein doubt quantum mechanics? Does the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics indicate that the universe is disordered? How was the universe born? Is there a greatest creator in the universe? Are there gods, Buddhas, angels, and demons? How was life born? Was it created by the greatest creator? Or did it evolve from organisms over thousands of billions of years? It is stated in the Bible that all animals on the earth are intended for humans, and humans can eat their meat. And the Buddhist Shurangama Sutra clearly tells us that we must not kill animals or eat their meat. What exactly is going on? Were Adam and Eve the ancestors of all mankind? Were they also the ancestors of American Indians, Asian yellow races, African blacks, and European whites? What is destiny? Does everyone have their own trajectory of life? If so, can this trajectory of life be changed? What exactly did Lao Tzu mean by Tao in the Tao Te Ching? Can one become immortal by attaining Tao? For thousands of years, sages of all ethnic groups have been exploring the mysteries of the universe and the true meaning of life, but the answer is still far from us. In the last 100 years, due to the development of industrialization, especially the rapid advancement of transportation and the information technology, people's vision has become limited in the field of science, and the light of science has enveloped people's consciousness and thinking, prompting people to gallop freely in the physical realm of common sense, but they cannot enter the higher-level physical realm. Although New Era thinking appeared in the 50s and 60s of last century, it was only a faint glimmer of rational thinking, which could not be understood and accepted by the public. Nowadays, people are too busy with their daily activities due to the accelerated pace of life and have no time to calm down and think. Although universities around the world produce millions of college students and graduate students every year, they are basically biological robots. Their thinking is running according to scientific procedures, and few people can break through this existing way of thinking. In comparison, people today have more knowledge and materials than in the past, and they use more advanced methods to create things that humans need. They eat, wear, use, and play more and better, and are richer than in the past. People are supposed to be more leisurely, freer, and more relaxed, but the reality is that instead of feeling more relaxed and freer, people feel more exhausted and stressed. We can't help asking, is there something wrong with the way that humans have been thinking for thousands of years? Or do humans need unconventional thinking?
从莫比乌斯带谈起。
Talking about the Mobius strip. Xiefeng. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. A piece of paper has two sides. If an ant is placed on the front of the paper and is not allowed to turn over the edge of the paper or bite through the paper, how can it easily and unconsciously climb from the front of the paper to the back of the paper and reach any point on the paper? From the perspective of conventional thinking, this is absolutely impossible, but someone has solved this problem. He is the German mathematician August Ferdinand Mobius. Mr. Mobius' solution is, twist one end of the paper 180 degrees and stick it to the other. At this point, the ant can freely climb from the front to the back, and from the back to the front. This is the Mobius strip. The Mobius strip is the result of unconventional thinking. What seems impossible with conventional thinking is easy with unconventional thinking. So, what is unconventional thinking? Unconventional thinking is a paradox of conventional thinking, a reverse thinking that goes against the usual way of thinking. For example, the Empress Wu Zetian ordered flowers to bloom, which was described in Flowers in the Mirror. Conventionally speaking, only winter plums will blossom on cold days, and the rest of the flowers should be sparse on dead branches, and they should be withered, but Wu Zetian went beyond the norm and ordered, all flowers must blossom overnight. Don't wait for the morning wind to push you. As a result, except for peonies, all the flowers grew overnight. At dawn, the fragrant flowers were in glorious bloom, and the Chuanfang Garden and Shanglin Garden were verdant and pleasing, full of beautiful spring scenery. What is normal to one nation is contrary to common sense and unnatural to another nation. For example, the order in which British, Americans, and Chinese write addresses is a kind of unconventional thinking, such as British and American, 38, Cosbill Street, Columbia District, New York City, United States. China, United States, New York City, Columbia District, Cosbill Street, number 38. For another example, when people die, their loved ones will cry to express their sorrow and sadness, but some nations use laughter to express sorrow. At funerals, some ethnic groups consider it respectful to wear white clothes, while others consider it respectful to wear black clothes. The secular view holds that one is born to pursue enjoyment, while most religions, especially Buddhism, believe that one is born to suffer. Traditional science believes that space and time are absolute. Space is like a box, matter is a particle in this box, and time passes evenly. Modern science believes that space-time depends on the distribution of matter itself, and space-time is curved. Common sense believes that chicken feathers can fly in the sky, but iron blocks cannot fly in the sky, but today's reality shows that iron blocks, weighing tens of tons, can also fly in the sky. It was previously thought that any number could be represented by the ratio of two integers, but later it was discovered that some numbers, such as irrational numbers, could not be represented by the ratio of two integers. After the establishment of the theory of real numbers, the discovery of ethereal imaginary numbers was confusing. What is considered impossible in conventional thinking is easily solved by unconventional thinking. Topology is a kind of unconventional thinking. It can change the position of space and make the inside and outside of a confined space communicate, making it impossible to distinguish inside from outside. Just like the Mobius strip, it is impossible to tell which is the front side, which is the reverse side. How can a person enter a sealed room, and how can one then get out of it? With conventional thinking, it is absolutely impossible. But if you think unconventionally, this matter is easy. It is just a different understanding of space. Can people be invisible? Conventional thinking has to say, this is the dreaming of an idiot. It is absolutely impossible. In fact, it is just a temporary distortion of space and time. Mankind has launched many spacecrafts to explore space. There are many purposes for this. Regardless of whether they admit it or not, one of the subconscious purposes is to find out whether there are stars outside the Earth for humans to live on. One side effect of this space exploration is the realization that the Earth's immediate neighbors are not suitable for human habitation, and the farther planets are a few light years or tens of light years away, which humans cannot reach within their limited lifespans. Humanity has only one Earth. This is the pessimistic conclusion obtained by the current exploration of space. Impossible. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. This is the conclusion obtained by conventional thinking. Einstein realized that the speed of light is the limit speed of the movement of matter, but he did not realize that the speed of non-material movement is the negative cosmic speed, and people can instantly reach a planet tens of light years away. Quantum mechanics believes that only one speed and position of a particle can be obtained, and accurate data of both cannot be measured at the same time. This uncertain principle has actually entered conventional thinking. The movement of a particle is disturbed by an infinite number of forces, so it cannot have a constant speed. In addition, the movement path of a particle is affected by other forces, so it cannot have a fixed line, which is why its speed and location cannot be measured at the same time. However, if we have a way to consider all the forces received by the particles and the magnitude and mode of action, then it is not difficult to measure the speed and position of the particles at the same time. Everything in the universe runs in an orderly manner, and particles are no exception. The current problem is that human intelligence has not yet reached the level of understanding all the forces in the universe. Quantum mechanics has entered the frontier zone, but this does not mean that the frontier zone is the marginal area of science, and we can also develop this in depth. Quantum mechanics can only end in the uncertainty principle. The development of science is endless, but the more knowledge humans carry, the slower they will move forward. 100 years ago, if people were able to master all the knowledge mankind accumulated by the age of 20, it is not possible now. Who would dare to say that he has encompassed all the knowledge accumulated by mankind by the age of 30? I am afraid that some people might have become exhausted and powerless before they reached the forefront of science. By extending quantum mechanics to humans, we find that humans are just particles. The gains and losses, misfortunes and blessings, illnesses and lifespans of human beings in the world happen to be within the uncertainty principle. We cannot accurately measure the length of a person's lifespan and his merits, demerits, gains, and losses in one's lifetime. However, all thinking that thinks of impossibilities belongs to conventional thinking. When we know that the universe is orderly and that life has a trajectory, we can analyze the hundreds of millions of factors that affect a person from an inevitable perspective, and we will find several sets of laws that affect life. From these laws, we can accurately measure a person's prosperity, adversity, poverty, lifespan, and fate of his entire life. Newton discovered universal gravitation, which explained a mystery of the universe. While benefiting mankind, at the same time it put a shackle on thinking of mankind. According to universal gravitation, it is impossible for a person to fly freely in the sky without the help of other tools. This has become conventional thinking again. But what people didn't expect is that gravitation is not universal. Gravitation is generated by motion. If the motion is large, the gravitation is large. If the motion is small, the gravitation is small. Where there is no motion, there is no gravitation, and where there is no gravitation, there is no weight. Cannot weightless people fly freely in the sky? Conventional thinking is going to laugh at me again. The Earth is in eternal motion, and people are eternally weighty. When the Earth stops moving, it is the end of life on the Earth. When can people fly freely in the sky? Conventional thinking is really troublesome. It doesn't consider the relationship among thinking, energy, and matter. Fax and email must be true, right? The technology of cloning can't be said to be fabricated, right? Is the fax or email we receive the same as the original? And is the cloned animal similar to the original one? All material things are just a matter of molecular arrangement, order, and structure. If the genetic structure of a pig is arranged in the order of a human genetic structure, then the pig will speak a human language. Could this be false? Then, can't people be faxed? Can't people be cloned? Substances cannot be faxed, but their structure and sequence can be faxed. We can pick up a phone and dial the number of a relative who is thousands of miles away. Although the person is thousands of miles away, the sound you hear is right close to your ears. Is there any doubt about this voice? With negative cosmic speed, a person's life structure and sequence can be faxed to a planet millions of light years away, and then endowed with energy, cloning, a new you will then be born. Since the sequence and structure are the same, your consciousness and memory still exist. Consciousness and memory exist in the structure and sequence, and you will still be you, not someone else. Good. Since the Earth can't restrain us, and space distance can't obstruct us, then, can motion restrain us? Let's not talk about absolute motion, but relative motion. On the COMC, while sitting in a ship's cabin, if we don't look out of the window, can we feel motion? There will be no feeling of motion at all. We are living on the Earth that travels 25 million kilometers a day. Can we feel the Earth moving at high speed? No, we cannot. When two objects of the same mass fly in the same direction and at the same speed, there is, relatively speaking, no motion between them. So there is no gravitational force between them, relatively speaking. In this case, for the small object sandwiched between these two objects, neither motion nor gravitational force is felt. In other words, it loses weight and can now fly freely. Is there such a place in the universe? Yes, there is. Please see the chapter of 36-dimensional spaces. Let's look at the Mobius strip again. When turning a paper with front and back sides into a strip without front and back sides, the key to it is to flip one end of it 180 degrees. This flipping process is the process of unconventional thinking. The flip must be 180 degrees. If it flipped less or more, it will not be the true. It would become a way that is perverse, a perverse theory, and it will bring endless disasters. The unconventional thinking of the Mobius strip is by no means a trick played by magicians. It is a key to understanding the truth.
对立统一是宇宙的表象，不是宇宙的实质。
The unity of opposites is the image of the universe, not its essence. Xiefeng. Translated by Qin Yu, edited by Peter. From the perspective of appearance, the universe embodies its opposition everywhere: truth and falsehoods, good and evil, beauty and ugliness, positive and negative, light and dark, yin and yang, prosperity and adversity, dynamic and static, superior and inferior, noble and lowly, rich and poor, life and death, front and back, big and small, good and bad, etc. But the Mobius strip tells us that there is only unity in the universe, but no opposition to it. Who can tell which is the front side and which is the back side of the M? By a strip. It has only one side, or in other words, there is a back side to the front side of the M, by a strip, and there is a front side to the back side of it. The front and the back side are perfectly intertwined and indistinguishable. Consider below the unity of opposites under conventional thinking. Up and down. Common sense believes that the top of the mountain is up and the foot of the mountain is down. The leaders are up and the masses are down. The sun is up and the earth is down. The head is up and the feet are down. The river has upstream and downstream. Unconventional thinking believes that there is no up and down in the universe, and that up and down is just a matter of concept. For example, the sun and the earth, from the perspective of the solar system, has no distinction of up and down, just the changing of positions. Is there up and down on the earth? The South Pole and the North Pole. Which pole is up and which pole is down? Look at the globe. Assuming that the surface of the earth is full of people, can you tell who is on top and who is on the bottom? Of course, we cannot. If we keep shrinking the earth to nothing, then all people on the earth will stand foot to foot, with their heads in the opposite direction. Now, who can tell whether the head is on top or the feet are on top? Of course, no one can. In the same way, is the top of the mountain up or the foot of the mountain up? Regardless of the direction, as long as we walk along a straight line, we will eventually return to the starting point. So, does the river have upstream and downstream? The masses can have no leaders, but the leaders must have masses. Then, are the masses at the top or are the leaders at the top? To have or not? Is there anything in the universe? In spring, flowers of all kinds are in bloom in the garden, contending in beauty and fascination, and in winter, what is left in the garden? Where are the dinosaurs? Where are our ancestors? If the Earth is hit by a laser beam from outer space, it will vanish instantly, and everything on the Earth, including the Earth itself, will disappear. What else do you have? Since elementary school, we have been struggling and striving in pursuit of possessions, but what do we get after death? A good name forever? Prosperous descendants? Immortal accomplishments? If the Earth shakes, will these things still exist? From a transcendental point of view, the more you pursue possessions, the result will be that you will own nothing. The more you pursue no possessions, the result will be that you will own everything. Shakyamuni, Jesus, Laozi, etc. did not pursue possessions, but they own everything. Thieves, liars, and corrupt officials are trying their best to pursue possessions, but they have nothing. If a peasant doesn't stop appropriately and think about his situation, he will always be a peasant. If a worker does not stop and look around, he will always be a worker. If a person does not calm down and perceive, he will always be a human. There is everything in emptiness, and there is emptiness in everything. I once asked a friend to give up everything and practice Taoism with me, but he couldn't let go of everything he had. He also wanted to glorify his ancestors and leave a good name for posterity. Watching him fall into human society and plunge into the real void, I could do nothing. With obstructed thinking, one is powerless. The sea of bitterness is boundless, so repent and be saved. Here repenting is unconventional thinking. Success and failure. There are no successes or failures in life. There are only different life trajectories. Success and failure are just the concepts of the laity. In the eyes of the laity, success is rank promoted, fortune made, and ancestors glorified, while failure is losing one's official position, losing money, being laid off, and being divorced. But from the perspective of the ultimate goal of life, only the 8 immortals and the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each showing their magical powers, are the winners. Looking back at thousands of years of recorded human history, who was the winner? The Egyptian pharaoh? Alexander? Caesar? Constantine? Charlemagne? Napoleon? King Arthur? Gregorian? Henry? Genghis Khan? Peter the Great? Washington? Lincoln? Hitler? Stalin? Gandhi? Mao Zedong? Bush? The heads of each state? Aristotle? Bacon? Dante? Columbus? Confucius? Martin Luther? Rousseau?
Montesquieu,
Voltaire? Marx? Darwin? Shakespeare? Newton? Einstein? Planck? Watson?
Rockefeller,
Bill Gates? If these people are successful, then are the others losers? If the dispossessed, homeless beggars along the street are defined as losers, then are the rest winners? Who is the winner? Who is the loser? Is there really a successful life? If there is no successful life, are all people failures? We annihilated 40,000 enemy troops. We succeeded. Did you succeed because you killed 40,000 lives? I frustrated all the competitors. I succeeded. Does it count as success by frustrating others? Dude, congratulations. We successfully robbed the Reserve Bank. It's so comfortable. I succeeded in swindling him out of all his money. You are so smart that you successfully transferred the company's property to your private account abroad. We successfully blew up the World Trade Center. We successfully released the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. I successfully spread the SARS virus. I successfully cloned people so that people don't know whose father he is or whose son he is. We successfully discharged wastewater into the river, and so on. Are these all successes? The well-known Napoleon Hill wrote a book, The Law of Success. His book has been sold in more than 30 countries and more than 20 million copies in more than 20 languages. He himself is called the creator of millionaires. Great. It's really great. But someone once said, walk along an impeccable line of reasoning. Everything is normal. But at the end, you suddenly find yourself caught in a dilemma. I wonder if Mr. Hill has come to the end and found himself in a dilemma. The law of success teaches people how to succeed. So does it mean that people who have not read the law of success are losers? At what level is one considered successful? How much wealth does one need to have to be counted as successful? How many bank robberies does it take to be considered a success? How many times can piracy be considered a success? How many rivers should one pollute to be considered a success? How much money should one embezzle to be considered as a success? How many children should one have to be considered as successful? How many multinational group companies does one need to establish to be considered as successful? If one side of a piece of paper is success and the other side is failure, then if this piece of paper is turned into a Mobius strip, how do we distinguish between success and failure? Gains and losses. Gaining is losing. Losing is gaining. The more you gain, the more you lose. The less you gain, the less you lose. Without losing, you will gain nothing. Without gaining, you will lose nothing. From middle school textbooks, we know the theorem of indestructibility of matter. Strictly speaking, it is not called the theorem of indestructibility of matter. It should be called the theorem of indestructibility of energy. Matter has birth and death, while energy is eternal in the universe. Energy is conserved, that is, the energy in the universe is a definite number. Energy will neither increase nor decrease. As the energy on the Earth increases, the energy on the Sun decreases, the temperature of water increases, and the amount of fuel is reduced. The more one experiences in life, the shorter one's life becomes. The more wisdom one has gotten, the whiter one's hair will be. Energy is a definite number, so what else is a definite number in the universe? Within the current range of the solar system, the time sequence is a fixed number. The 24 solar terms of the lunar calendar set by Chinese sages, beginning of spring, rain, awakening of insects, spring equinox, Qingming, grain rain, start of summer, lesser fullness, grain in ear, summer solstice, minor heat, major heat, start of autumn, end of heat, white dew, autumn equinox, cold dew, frost descent, start of winter, light snow, heavy snow, winter solstice are fixed numbers. The 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and heavenly stems and earthly branches, Jia yi bing ding wu ji gung xian ren kue, and zi cho ina meo chen si wu wei shin yu su hai, and the 12 animal signs, rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, chicken, dog, and pig, corresponding to each year, month, day, and hour are all definite numbers. The method of choosing the day of good fortune and bad fortune in the art of becoming invisible, Taoist magic, which was calculated from the primordial 8 trigrams by Wenwang of the Zhou dynasty and was later used by Jiang Zia, Zhang Liang, and Zhuge Liang, is a definite number. The Earth's moving trajectory and rotation speed are fixed numbers. The waxing and waning of the moon is a fixed number. The ocean's ebb and flow is a fixed number. Women's menstrual cycles are a fixed number. And the lifespan of animals and plants is a fixed number. An elephant will not live 300 years. A poplar tree will not grow for 300 years. The dry and rainy seasons in Zimbabwe are fixed numbers. The mineral resources and water volume on the Earth are fixed numbers. The number of hairs a person can grow is a fixed number. The ratio of height to the maximum distance between the 2 middle fingers is a fixed number. The number of legs and the number of heads a human has is a fixed number. Springs have an elastic limit, steel has a fatigue limit, various objects have a limit of motion, animals and plants have a growth limit, and all artificial products have a maximum service life. No matter how good the car is, after running for a certain number of kilometers, it is bound to be eliminated and scrapped. Within a certain altitude, the temperature at which water boils is a fixed number, and the temperature at which it freezes is also a fixed number. The ignition point of various substances is a fixed number. The saturation of various compounds is a fixed number. The composition ratio of various colors is a fixed number. The traveling speed of sound is a fixed number, and the frequency of the sound that humans can hear and the wavelength of the light that human eyes can see are fixed numbers. Everything within the range of rational numbers is a definite number. The amount of money, the length of life, the height of rank, the size of influence, etc., are all within the range of rational numbers, so they are all fixed numbers. Everything about humans is within the range of rational numbers, so everything about humans is definite. Everything that changes with time and space is within the range of rational numbers and is definite. Is everything in the range of irrational numbers not definite? The most famous irrational number is pi. Pi equals 314,159,265,3589. The other is the golden ratio phi. Phi equals 1.61803398874989484821. These are two of the infinite mysteries of the universe that ordinary people know. But where is their ending? Are they also limited by time and space? As a Chinese Taoist saying goes, heaven's secrets should never be revealed. Secular people use this sentence to keep secrets. In fact, the essence of this sentence refers to the development trend and definite number of things within the scope of irrational numbers. Long-term unconventional thinking can lead to one's spiritual transcendence. After transcending the regular ethics, one can realize many heavenly secrets. Heavenly secrets can be leaked. The key is to whom should they be leaked? Jesus taught us, "Do not give that which is holy to the dogs, neither cast your pearls before the hogs." The Yellow Emperor's Hidden Talisman Classic says, after realizing the heavenly secret, virtuous people will settle down and practice it, while the villains will get carried away and act rashly and even ruin their destinies. The Tao Te Ching said, the main path, Tao, heavenly secrets, is easy to walk on, yet people love the small bypaths. He who knows does not speak. He who speaks does not know. Those who understand the secrets of heaven know the art of non-action, but if they reveal these secrets to ordinary people, it will lead to the downfall of unwise individuals who act recklessly and perish prematurely. Chuang Tzu. Shakyamuni once said to Subhuti, the Tathagata expounds it to those initiated into the Mahayana and the Supreme Yana. Those who take delight in the Hinayana, Theravada, and hold the view of an ego, a personality, a being, and a life, cannot listen to, receive, hold, in mind, read and recite this sutra and explain it to others. The heavenly secret is not forbidden to be divulged. The key is that it will lead to a bad result if it is divulged. If I say, what can be imagined in the human brain is real, this will cause countless people to go astray. If you suddenly give a poor man 1,000,000 ounces of gold, he will be restless both day and night. He has to guard against thieves and robbers. He has to deal with his neighbors and friends borrowing money from him, and the many demands of kinsfolks and relatives. He has to deal with the local bureaucrats' apportionment as well as the advice and suggestions of good-hearted people and gentlemen, which will end up hurting him. So, I have to say, what I said is all nonsense. Although the heavenly secrets cannot be leaked, I can reveal a little information from the irrational numbers pi, and phi, golden ratio. One is the universe is infinite and life is infinite. The second is, as a person, one's life is a finite cycle, but once the life goes beyond the category of a rational number, it enters the range of an irrational number. His life becomes infinite and non-repeating. It is like what is said in the Buddhist scripture, beyond the 3 realms and no longer subject to the 5 elements. It is also like speed. If the speed of an object is less than 7,900 meters per second, it can only live on the Earth. But if it is greater than or equal to 7,900 meters per second, but less than 11,180 meters per second, it can fly around the Earth. But once its speed exceeds 11,180 meters per second, it can get rid of the gravitational restraint of the Earth, and it enters the huge solar system. When its speed exceeds 16,670 meters per second, it can freely enter the vast galaxy and experience the galaxy's various appearances and exceeding fascination and charm. The third is, time only exists in the world of rational numbers. There is no time in the world of irrational numbers. The wisdom of ordinary people has developed from natural numbers to irrational numbers, which can be said has reached its limit. If it develops further, it will enter the field of complex numbers, which is the field of thinking of gods and Buddhas. For example, the imaginary number 1 is not of the wisdom that ordinary people can understand, because imaginary numbers have illusory properties You cannot find a practical example in the material world. Although imaginary numbers are used in electrical engineering and quantum mechanics, they are just a drop in the bucket of imaginary numbers, which is still polar away from the correct and comprehensive understanding of imaginary numbers. Let's put aside irrational numbers and complex numbers. Within the range of rational numbers, everything has a definite number. As far as people are concerned, the number of things everyone owns has been limited in their own life structure, just like the amount of water on the earth. If there is more water in the ocean, there will be less water in lakes and rivers, or less water in glaciers, or less groundwater. It is impossible to increase everywhere because the amount of water on the earth is a fixed number, a constant. The things one can own in life are definite numbers, such as health, longevity, beauty, wealth, reputation, freedom, happiness, wisdom, safety, children, etc. If the number of a person's possessions is set as 1, then each factor, assumed to be 10, accounts for 0.1. These factors are all on a very sensitive polyhedral seesaw. When beauty is greater than 0.1, the amount of health will be less than 0.1, or the share of reputation will decrease. When the amount of wealth is greater than 0.1, the quantity of freedom or happiness will decrease. And when the knowledge increases, the lifespan may become shorter and shorter. In a word, if one factor increases, the other or several other factors will decrease, and the total amount remains unchanged at 1. The definite number of people cannot be limited to a few years, decades, or hundreds of years, otherwise, your understanding will go astray. Some people may use examples from real society to deny this theorem and ask, how do you explain a person who became a high-ranking official and made a fortune, has many wives and concubines, lives a long and healthy life, has a good reputation, and has many children and grandchildren? This involves the transformation of time and space and life structure. God Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "But woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation." Luke 6 verse 24. Buddha Shakyamuni said, "Furthermore, Subhuti, if a virtuous man or woman receives, holds in mind, reads and recites this sutra and is despised by others, this person who is bound to suffer from evil destinies in retribution for his past sins, and whose karmic sins are now eradicated by the other's contempt, will attain supreme enlightenment." Anuttarasamyak Sambodhi. Diamond Sutra, Chapter 16. Karmic obstructions can be purified. Immortal Laozi said, "When one is about to take an inspiration, he is sure to make a previous expiration. When he is going to weaken another, he will first strengthen him. When he is going to overthrow another, he will first have raised him up. When he is going to despoil another, he will first have made gifts to him." Tao Te Ching, Chapter 36. To sum up the teachings of gods, Buddhas, and immortals, it means that if you get more in this life, there will be less in your next life. If you suffer in this life, you will enjoy happiness and blessedness in the next life. If you are overspending from your bank account, you will have no money to use at critical times. If Tao wants to restrain you, it must first expand you. To weaken you, it must first strengthen you. To discard you, it must first make you prosper. To take away your blessings, it will first give you temporary enjoyment. In short, no matter where you go, what you own will always be one. In my opinion, those who are rich and powerful are very poor, and their prospects are very worrying, while those who are suffering, although their lives are extremely difficult, their prospects are very splendid. This is the paradox, which is hard to understand because of the lack of examples in reality. If I say, people enjoy blessings today because they accumulated virtues in their previous lives, and they are enjoying the blessings they gained by self-improvement in their previous lives. It is hard for people to believe it because few people know their own past life and future life, let alone other people's past lives and future lives. Without unconventional thinking, we cannot make the connection between the past life, the present life, and the next life, just like we can't organically combine the front side with the back side. The most valuable and meaningful life is one where you give more and enjoy less. People may be unfair to you, but heaven, the greatest creator, never will. Above, I only gave examples of oppositions of up and down, having and not having, success and failure, gain and loss, from which we can see that opposition is the appearance of the universe, while unity is the essence of the universe.
生死是表象， 生命无生死，
Life and death are only images. There is neither life nor death in life. Xiefeng. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. The Mobius strip tells us that life and death are not opposites. Life is death, and death is life. There is death in life, and life in death. The Yellow Emperor's Book of the Hidden Talisman said, "Life is the root of death, and death is the root of life." Babies cry when they are born. Why do they cry? Because life is bitter. How do you know that life is bitter? This is like a chick in an egg that has been hatched for 21 days, pecking at the shell. Although it does not know how thick the eggshell is, whether it can be pecked through, or whether there is a vast world outside the eggshell, it must peck. That is its instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is a kind of innate performance that biosystems can make without learning, such as chickens in eggshells pecking at them, bees making honey, migratory birds migrating with the seasons, mice digging holes, roosters crowing, etc. Babies cry as soon as they are born, and they know how to suck a breast. This is also an instinct. Everything has an instinct. If they do not have an instinct, everything will perish. So where did the instinct come from? This involves the origin of life. Please see the chapter of life. All things on earth are created by higher life, and instincts are embedded in the structure and order of life. The purpose of this chapter is to talk about life and death. Why do we say, life is death and death is life? To understand the true meaning of life and death, we must proceed from the following 3 points. First, do people have past lives? First of all, let me reprint the full text of an article compiled by Wang Jiankong and Li Liming and published in Reader magazine. Unbelievable, Reborn Girl. In 1926, a lovely little girl was born in Delhi, India. Her name was Shani Devi. When she was just born, there was nothing abnormal about her at all. But when she was 7 years old, little Shani suddenly said to her mother inexplicably, "Mom, I used to live in the city of Mathura." She also enthusiastically told her mother about Mathura and the situation at her home then. Later, Shanti mentioned this matter several more times. The parents were very worried when they saw their 7-year-old daughter talking about something irrelevant, so they took her to see a doctor. The doctor was puzzled after hearing Shanti's narration. "It's really strange. This child has no symptoms of mental abnormalities at all. How could she say these unbelievable things? Let's observe her for a while." However, at the age of 9, Shanti still did not forget about her living in Mathura. "Mom, did I mention that I lived in Mathura before? I got married there and gave birth to 3 children. My name was Luchi when I lived in Mathura." Shanti also told her mother the names and characteristics of the 3 children. The parents became more and more anxious after listening to their daughter's intoxicated chatter, thinking that the child's condition was probably getting worse. And they often wiped away their tears in secret. One day, a visitor came to see Shanti's mother. As soon as Shanti saw that person, she suddenly called out, "Mom, this person is my former husband's cousin. He also lives in Mathura." The guest was surprised when he heard Shanti's words and said, "Your daughter is right. I used to live in Mathura. But how did she know about it?" After the incident spread, it attracted the attention of the Indian government, and a special investigation committee was formed. The committee brought Shani to Mathura for on-the-spot investigation. Shanti has never left Delhi since her birth. But as soon as she arrived in Mathura, she was able to warmly greet the local people who came to meet her in the Mathura dialect, as if she had met a long-lost friend. When she came to the door of a house, she stopped suddenly and said to others, "This is the house I used to live in." She walked in the door, pointed to an old man, and said, "He is just the father of my former husband." Then, she recognized her 2 children, and she also told people about her previous life in Mathura in detail, her association with her friends, the nearby landscape, and the school she was in at that time. The local people were very surprised when they heard her narration. What she said was completely correct, which was exactly the situation at that time. So little Shanti is the one who was reborn. The people who came to investigate this issue had to come to this conclusion. In India, the ancient Buddhist country, there are really many reborn people. Swarata Misho is one of them. One day, when he was traveling by bicycle, he pointed to a house he had never been to and said that he had lived here for a period and talked as if he just thought of it. He also talked about the past. This surprised the accompanying family members. They ran into the village to inquire, and what Svolrada said was exactly what happened here decades ago. It is said that Svolrada has been resurrected 3 times. There was also a young man in India named Gaspiel. He just died shortly. On the day a person named Yaki died in a village 35 kilometers away, Gaspier suddenly woke up in the coffin placed in his home. When people pulled him out of the coffin, to their surprise, Gaspiel knew the appearance of Yaki, who was far away in a foreign land, and all the things that happened in that village. There are many examples of past lives recorded in ancient and modern Chinese and foreign books. We can't completely believe what they say, but in the face of the facts, we can't deny everything. We can deny that the statement of Tang Monk in Journey to the West is the reincarnation of Jean Chanzi, but we cannot but believe in the theory of the reincarnated soul boy of the Tibetan Panchen Lama in Tibet. For example, Wendu Gongbao Kaidan, the reincarnated soul boy of the 9th Panchen Lama Sangdang Kyuji Nyama, was able to accurately select the utensils used by the previous Panchen Lama from other identical objects, and even more surprisingly, he was able to call out the name of Gajan Pong, who had sung for the Panchen Lama, from the crowd. Before that, the two had never met. Gongbao Kaidan was not discovered by accident. After the 9th Panchen Lama passed away, the Panchen Xingyuan, an organization dedicated to protecting the personal safety of the Panchen Lama of Tibetan Buddhism, began to search for his reincarnated soul boy. After several screenings and selections among the 17 possible reincarnated soul boys, 6 were initially identified. After many more procedures, it was finally identified that Kutinj Longgar Gyatso was the reincarnated soul boy of the 9th Panchen Lama. However, Kutinj Longgar Gyatso suddenly died of an illness. Why did he die suddenly? Because the real reincarnated soul boy was not him, but someone else. Having no choice, the Panchen Kinpo Conference Hall took the remaining 5 possible reincarnated soul boys to Kumba Monastery. They wrote the soul boys' names on papers, wrapped the papers in tsampa, kneaded the tsampa into balls, and put them into a gold bottle. After a series of prayers and other activities, they shook the gold bottle in front of the public. A pill jumped out of the gold bottle during the shaking. They opened it, and it was Wendu Gongbao Kaidan's name on it. In fact, anyone who was a human being in the last life and reincarnated as a human in the next life will definitely have a feeling of déjà vu about a place suddenly and dimly in your life. In some places, although you have never been there, once you arrive, they must be reflected in your subconsciousness. You don't know what's going on, you just feel as if you have been here before. Of course, if you were an animal in your previous life, you will not have this kind of memory, but you must have a special love for a certain animal, and you are particularly disgusted or afraid of some animals. If you were a celestial in the 1,000-year world or the 10,000-year world, you will not have this kind of hazy memory, but you will definitely hate the selfishness of human society and subconsciously feel that you don't belong to this world. If you come from the Elysium world, you don't like meat by nature. Many wonderful hallucinations often appear in your mind, and you have an instinctive closeness to Buddhism. Second, do people really have an afterlife? It's hard for us to believe the hearsay of others, but we have to believe the theories and examples based on scientific research and clinical practice. There is an organization in this world called the International Association for Near-Death Studies, whose website is www.nderf.org. The results of this research organization show that people have an afterlife. Please feel free to contact them to discuss where people go after death. As living people, it is impossible for them to clearly know the scene after death, but for those who died but came back to life due to various reasons, it is true that some of them have experienced the scene after death. I myself started to explore the essence of life because of a fact that came into being 20 years ago. That is, no matter whether people in the world believe it or not, I am sure that life has an afterlife, and because of my continuous research and exploration, I discovered my past life and future life and made clear the purpose and significance of my birth. I passed through a happy darkness and saw the bright sunshine. I felt extremely happy. I was pushed into a black hole, and my mind still maintained infinite peace. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in front of me. It was like a star in the sky at first, and then it turned into a sun at dawn in an instant. The radiant sun does not dazzle me. On the contrary, Looking at this red sun, I feel unparalleled happiness. This is a beautiful place. I am very happy to come to this place. I feel delightful. I seem to have a nightmare. Countless ghosts came to claim my life, and a black tornado also hit me. I was frightened to death, and suddenly I was pulled back by a force. I watched the doctors tossing my dead body. Relatives and friends were mourning and crying, but I drifted farther and farther away from them. I was not sad. I felt extremely peaceful and felt that there was a beautiful place in the distance, and that is where I should be. The above are the memories and narrations of people who died and came back to life. Although they did not describe what kind of place they arrived at, it is certain that they still have a clear consciousness after death, and they also feel the beauty or dreadfulness of the place they are going to. It is certain that people will have an afterlife. There are only two kinds of eternal things in the universe. One is energy and the other is life. Without life, the existence of the universe is meaningless. Without energy, life will have nothing to attach itself to. Life is eternal. The so-called death is just the transformation of the life carrier. After the body of life dies, the spiritual body of life will enter another life carrier. After a dog dies, it may be reincarnated as a human being. Then, as a dog, it died, but it was born again as a human being. That is to say, life is the root of death, and death is the root of life. Where there is no death, there is no birth. Where there is no birth, there is no death. If the life of a dog does not die, then the life of a human cannot be born. To be born in the 1,000-year world, the life in the mortal world must die, and life cannot step into two rivers at the same time. So, what is the meaning of in life there is death, in death there is life? We know that the aging of the body is gradual and unconscious. If we take photos of the life mileage from birth to death every day, by taking out two adjacent photos and comparing them, you cannot see the difference between the two at all. However, if you compare the photos with the ones which were taken after a period of time, such as 1 month or a year, you can clearly see the difference between them. That is to say, life is dying every moment. In life there is death. So, is there life in death? Yes, there is life in death. We already know that life is eternal, and people have an afterlife. So what factors will determine our afterlife? Is becoming a cow, a pig, a human, an immortal, or a Buddha in the next life accidental or inevitable? We know that every result has an early cause. It is impossible for anyone to suddenly become a president. A desert will not suddenly become an oasis, and a tadpole will not suddenly become a frog. The change is gradual, but the result may be sudden. For a person to reincarnate as a beast in the next life, he needs to continue to do evil, to squander and waste. He needs not only to spend all the savings in his life bank, but also overspend and leave a deficit. Otherwise, he will not be able to reincarnate as a beast in his next life. In the same way, if a person wants to become a Buddha, he must consciously and voluntarily reach the point of having nothing. Not only can he not own money, fame, property, beautiful women, family, status, etc., but he must also not be obsessed with a certain concept or have disputes with common people, and of course he must not kill or eat meat. If you want to go to the 1,000-year world in your next life, your humanity must be perfect. So, are there any signs that indicate what kind of reincarnation criteria a person has reached at the time of his death? Yes, that are the different structures of neurons in the central nervous system of the brain at the time of death. Different structures have different colors. If a color scanner can be invented when a person dies, open his neurocranium and you can see the color of his brain with the scanner. If it is colorful, it can be concluded that his life has gone to the 10,000-year world. If it is purple, he has gone to the Elysium world. If it appears red or green or blue, he must have gone to the 1,000-year world. If it appears white, he will be reincarnated as a human. If it shows a faint dark color, he will enter the animal world in the next life. If it is black, he will definitely go to the netherworld, or the frozen layer, or to the inflaming layer. In short, life and death are only images. Life has neither life nor death. Just like Seth said, death is not the end of life.
物种是进化来的吗？
Did life evolve from non-life? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Let's examine the validity of the evolutionist perspective, with Darwin as their pioneer, on the origin of species. Upon rejecting the Big Bang Theory and the notion of life arising accidentally from water, and upon analyzing the theory of evolution, we realize its shaky foundation. Without the birth of life, can evolution truly exist? Where do eggs come from without chickens? And without eggs, where does the chicken come from? Like how DNA formation depends on protein formation, without initial protein presence, DNA cannot form. Which came first, protein or DNA? The core tenets of the theory of evolution are as follows. Before evolution, there must be at least one or several lives. These one or several lives have evolved into a diverse array of life forms on Earth today. Organism evolution results from heredity, variation, and natural selection. Evolution follows the logic of natural selection, survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, selecting the superior and eliminating the inferior. When a species cannot adapt to its environment, or when the environment does not support a species' survival, it evolves into another species. Due to brutal competition and survival of the fittest, the weak are naturally eliminated, leaving behind only the strong. This implies that low-energy forms fade while high-energy forms emerge. From these aspects, we can deduce the following. Earthworms, flies, turtles, dung beetles, cobras, dogs, humans, etc., originate from the same ancestor. Due to deteriorating ecological conditions, to ensure species reproduction, some dinosaurs evolved into humans, while others became lions and wolves. Since weaker organisms are naturally eliminated, all insects are weaker than birds and will evolve into birds or more powerful animals. Similarly, herbivores, weaker than carnivores, will evolve into carnivores for species reproduction. Carnivores, weaker than humans, will undoubtedly evolve into humans for survival. The final outcome of survival of the fittest is that all insects and animals will eventually evolve into humans. Regarding humans, the strong prey on the weak and the fittest survive. People survive by plundering and killing each other. Strong nations only remain invincible by eliminating the weak. All plundering and killing wars in history align with the theory of evolution. Acts of kindness toward other species appear cruel within one's own race. Conversely, cruelty toward other species is seen as kindness within one's own race. Whether it's burning, killing, looting, or cheating, any means to eliminate the weak and strengthen oneself are justified. Hence, Hitler's actions were 100% correct. Humans will continue to evolve. Eventually, wings will grow on their backs, eyes on the back of their heads, and they will breathe out fireworks and emit laser light from their eyes. Further analysis is unnecessary. Based on the 10 outcomes mentioned above, we can assess the viability of the theory of evolution. As we observe humans becoming smarter and more capable with each generation, we assume human evolution. However, this increased capability depends entirely on accumulated knowledge, and the essence of human life has remained unchanged since ancient times. Our genes, as human beings, have not changed. Our ancestors had 2 eyes, and we still do. Our blood was red then, and it remains red now. Our body structure has not gained or lost any organs or parts compared to our ancestors. If modern children could run like deer or zebras at birth, it would confirm human evolution. If monkeys' and apes' brains are similar to humans in learning, memory, and thinking, we can deduce that humans evolved from monkeys. I will delve further into the topic of biological evolution in future chapters, particularly in the Greatest Creator chapter of Life at Genuine. I encourage you to continue contemplating this issue.
盲区
The Blind Zone. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. If we observe a blind person, we will find that he is constantly feeling his way forward. He cannot stride confidently on winding roads, nor can he see the potholes and stumbling stones ahead. We feel genuinely saddened by this. But what about those of us with sight? We eagerly unpack our treasures, investing everything in a marriage, only to face the painful experience of divorce a few years later. Why couldn't we foresee the outcome back then? We sincerely invest time in friendships, only to be betrayed, robbed of our savings, and even lose our spouses. Were we blind to the truth from the start? We wholeheartedly support someone's rise to power, only to discover him indifferent to our well-being and willing to trample us underfoot. Why were we blind to their true nature? We extend compassion to someone in need, sparing no effort to help him overcome one difficulty after another. However, once his wounds are healed, he turns around to bite us, not only stealing our wealth but also spreading rumors and slandering us, portraying us as worthless. Did our eyes truly perceive their nature from the outset? Parents toil tirelessly and pour their hearts into raising their children, hoping to have support in their old age. Yet, in an instant, their children die on the battlefield or under the wheel and fail to provide the expected support. Given such outcomes, how accurate was our foresight from the start? We labor tirelessly to raise our children, pouring our hearts and souls into their upbringing. Yet, in our old age, we find ourselves abandoned, without the familial support we hoped for. What was the purpose of our endeavors? Were we blind to the future? When we were at school, we studied certain subjects for getting food and sleep, but after graduation, we were unable to pursue the majors we studied. If we knew this before, why did we bother to waste money and energy? We work from dawn to dusk, live frugally, rack our brains, and work hard all our lives. When we are about to die, think about what we have gained. What were we blindly busying for? We can't see the substances with wavelengths outside the light range of 400 to 700 nanometers. We can't see the epidemic germs flying in the air. We can't see the radioactive elements invading our nerve cells, and we can't see viral bacteria filled in the rivers. The welfare of the public is lost virtually. We also turn a blind eye. What will happen tomorrow? Our eyes are also invisible. How far and how deep can our eyes see? What on earth did we see? How different are we from the blind? The achievement of a general cost many lives. One family becomes rich and another 10,000 will be, relatively, poor. The predecessors are brilliant and the descendants will be bleak. In this life, behave like a tyrant. In the next life, one will suffer. What do we really understand? What did you see again? We are so busy every day. What on earth are we busy for? We are running with high spirits on the seemingly straight road. Is this road the best way of life? What is the point of what we are passionate about? We are working overtime to build a house somewhere, yet an earthquake is imminent in this area. So, the more we do, the greater our loss. And the more we hurry up, the more we waste, isn't it? We were sweating profusely and anxiously queued up to buy tickets for the maiden voyage of the Titanic. The day when you got the ticket, was it the day when the tragedy started? A few years ago, one night, I was driving a four-wheel drive Toyota pickup truck on a jungle path in Binka, Zimbabwe, when a rabbit jumped out onto the path and attempted to cross. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The rabbit was crushed to death under the wheel. Oh, rabbit, why do you hurry across the road? If you slowed down for a few seconds, you could pass safely. Does speed really make you safer? Recently, while typing with the window open in the study room of Villa number 46, at night, a few bees would often fly in to look for light. By the next day, all these bees would be found dead. Oh, bees, why do you seek out the light instead of staying in the darkness of the night? Is any bright place a good place? How many tragedies in the world happen in haste? How many joys of life are ruined in the pursuit of brightness? People, where are we going in such a hurry? There was a farmer who heard that there was gold far away, so he sold his property and went to a distant place to pan for gold. A few years later, he returned to his hometown empty-handed. Upon returning to his hometown, the first news he heard filled him with regret. The news is that the man who bought his property dug up a lot of gold on the land he sold. Everyone finds themselves in a blind zone, and it appears that we are navigating blindly. It appears that there are few individuals, both in ancient and modern times, from China and abroad, who can clearly guide us toward a path to happiness. The scriptures of major religions are profoundly deep, and we have yet to grasp their true meanings. How much farther must we tread within this blind zone?
野生动物为什么不培养自己的医生？
Why do wild animals not cultivate their own doctors? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. Humans meticulously care for themselves, always fretting over and preparing for unforeseen future events, being precautious and preventative. Contemplating the future and taking precautions isn't inherently wrong, but the question remains, Are we devoting too much time, energy, and resources to the future? By excessively fixating on the future, are we neglecting our present? Today, people seem to form friendships mainly for utilitarian purposes, rather than fostering genuine connections as our ancestors did, where hearts were in sync. At home, rely on parents. Outside, rely on friends. But why do we rely? We cloak our true intentions, compromising and pandering to friends, just to safeguard against unforeseeable future events, leaning on them, correct? Despite forced smiles, reluctant engagements, and considerable reluctance, we still go out of our way to garner support for others. Are we still being true to ourselves? How much of our time is squandered on fruitless pursuits? Why do we engage in this behavior? Is it all in anticipation of the unforeseeable future? We install security doors, set up alarms, erect fences, hang electric wires, manufacture weapons, construct hospitals, and purchase insurance. As humanity progresses, it appears the less secure we feel. Why is this? Will there come a day when everyone must wear bulletproof vests and dwell in heavily fortified underground bunkers? Is this truly the path of human advancement? Birds and wild animals do not have doctors or hospitals. Does that mean they cannot survive? The day before yesterday, I visited the Marandra Wildlife Sanctuary for observation. A large elephant mingled among a group of water buffaloes. According to the park staff, this elephant has been alive for nearly 30 years. It struck me. This elephant has lived for 30 years without ever seeing a doctor or receiving treatment from a hospital. How did it weather the storms and extreme weather conditions over these 30 years? Among humans, who among the 30-year-olds has never visited a hospital or seen a doctor? Can one not survive without doctors and hospitals? I'm not suggesting that having doctors and hospitals is detrimental. The extension of human lifespan partly hinges on the advancement of medical services. The question remains, why don't birds and wild animals have their own doctors and hospitals? Are they not living freely and happily? In the courtyard of the villa where I reside, the vegetation flourishes. Every day around 4:30 in the morning, birds chirp in unison, and around 5 o'clock, when I open the window, I can observe a dozen or more species of birds merrily chirping and catching insects. They appear so carefree and liberated, utterly unconcerned about world affairs, currency fluctuations, the Iraq crisis, or the Asian financial turmoil. I wonder, should humans take a cue from birds? If we eschew reliance on anything and nothing can be depended upon, if we refrain from worrying excessively about the future, will we live more freely? Let what comes, come, and let what goes, go. Wouldn't life be simpler?
思维误区
Misconceptions in Thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Failure is the mother of success. Is it really so? The original intention of this argument is to encourage people not to be discouraged by failure, but to learn from it in order to achieve success. It seems that the great inventor Edison once said, "Who says I failed? I already know 9,900 ways that won't work." From this, people mistakenly believe that Edison's success is entirely due to failure. Thus, failure is the mother of success. In fact, Edison's success is entirely based on his repeated successes. Without the multiple successes in the early stage and the confidence gained from other successes, he would undoubtedly fail. The truth is, from the perspective of